So earlier today on First Take, Stephen A. Smith had some thoughts regarding the Dallas Cowboys. Thinks they made a big mistake. So let's hear what he has to say.
Sometimes they catch you.
At the end of the day, what it comes down to is this, all right? You look at Stephen Jones, and they haven't done anything. They made a big mistake, Harry. They made a big mistake, Coach, not getting Derrick Henry. How you let him get to the Baltimore Ravens? If you get Derrick Henry in Dallas, especially for the money, because they're only getting like $8 million from Baltimore. If you get him in Dallas, you take an inordinate amount of pressure off of Dak Prescott, and therefore, because of that, he might not sit up there and panic come January. You understand? You ever thought about that? You take some of the load, some of the pressure off of him. It may have actually helped him and elevated his stock, but you didn't do that. So now it's perceived as you being at the mercy of Dak Prescott. I'm not buying that one bit. Certainly, you got to take care of those three because you didn't go out in the offseason and do much. But my priority would be Michah Parsons. That's me. And the reason I say that, I understand from a business perspective, it's the National Football League, the quarterback's the priority. I get all of that. Cee Dee Lamb is a stud. We get all that. I understand that. Yep. But I'm talking mystique. I'm talking the brother that shows up, and excuse me, listen, I'm going to get at the quarterback. I'm going to hold it down on the defensive side of the ball. We going to make up for what we know the quarterback ain't going to give us. Now, we can't make up. I understand they got blitzed by Green Bay in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. That's on them. They just did. I don't know what the hell was wrong with them. Had players coming on talking about they were tired. They came on First Take, they were talking about they were tired. I don't know if you saw that episode. They talking about they were tired. You understand what I'm saying? I couldn't believe it.
That was on our show.
I said it was on our show. So I get that. I'm just saying, I just think that Michah Parsons, nobody's LT, and I'm certainly not implying that, and he's got to show up in the playoffs too, but Michah Parsons to me is that dude that personifies so much of what Cowboy fans believe they are. I'm taking care of that brother. I'm not losing that brother.
Okay, so first off, Stephen A. Smith coming in and saying that the Cowboys made a big mistake in not signing Derrick Henry. Now, while I get where he's coming from, I just don't think that, Derrick Henry is a difference between the Cowboys finally finding success in the playoffs. Derrick Henry is getting up there in age, 30 years old. And if you look at the contract that Tony Pollard got, the contract that Derrick Henry got, they're pretty similar when it comes to, money on a per year basis. I think Tony Pollard's around $7-ish million. Derrick Henry's around $8-ish million. And so Dak has had some good quarterback play over the years, and it hasn't really necessarily gotten him to that next level. And when you look at the fact that the Cowboys they may need to pay Cee Dee Lamb, Michah Parsons, and Dak Prescott, I see why they wouldn't want to pay a running back who's 30 years old, going to be 31 years old after this season. I just think it's never wise to invest in a running back at, when they're around 30 years old. Now, the Ravens paying Henry, $8 million per year for 2 years, I don't think it's the worst thing ever, because if you look at Derrick Henry, his stats, he's still been somewhat productive, even though his yards per attempt is a little lower than earlier in his career. He's still been rushing for, 1,500 yards in 2022, 1,100 in 2023, and he's going to a much better Ravens offense. And so I think that Derrick Henry has proved that he's sort of, gone against what typically happens to running backs when they reach 28, 29, 30. He's still playing at a solid level. But the Cowboys, I just don't think they wanted to invest that money in the running back position when they need to pay Dak, Michah Parsons, Cee Dee Lamb. And I found a quote from Stephen Jones of the Cowboys around that time on why they didn't get Derrick Henry. He said this: "We just didn't have those type of resources to allocate to that position, or we probably would have already had it filled with Tony Pollard," Jones said. "We just didn't have the dollars to allocate to the running back position, and certainly looking to do it in a more efficient way in terms of how it complements the rest of our offensive roster." And so instead of getting Derrick Henry, the Cowboys signed Ezekiel Elliott to a 1-year, $2 million deal. They have Rico Dowdle for about $1 million and Deuce Vaughn for about $900,000. So it's not the greatest running back room, but I think that with the rest of the pieces that the Cowboys have, I think they'll be fine. I don't think it's necessary to always have, a top-tier running back. And now Stephen A. Smith, the other point he made is, in his mind, he thinks the Cowboys should focus on paying Michah Parsons. And I guess the question is, who's the most important player on this Cowboys team when you look at Cee Dee Lamb, Dak Prescott, Michah Parsons? You can make an argument for all of them, But I think that when it comes to regular season success, the Cowboys, I think most important player is Dak Prescott. The thing is, as we've all known, Dak Prescott has not performed up to expectations in the playoffs. It's not only him, it's also the rest of this Cowboys team. Cee Dee Lamb, I think, didn't play up to his potential in that game against the Packers. But when it comes to regular season success, I think Dak is most important. The quarterback position is the most important position, I would say. But because Dak has struggled for so long in the playoffs, it feels to me like the Cowboys are okay with him playing out his final year. If he plays really well, maybe they give him a new deal. It sounds like they want to give him one now. Potentially they're optimistic about, or they want to they've said they want to bring Dak back. Dak could be the one who's saying, you know what, I want to play out this season, see where I want to go. There's also a chance that they get a deal done before the season. Who knows? I just think that when you look at the Cowboys, they've dominated so much in the regular season the past 3 years, and at some point it's like, okay, are we going to try to switch it up and do something new? And I part of me feels like the Cowboys may be contemplating moving on from Dak Prescott after this year. They can, maybe try Trey Lance, sign him to a super cheap deal, and then try to bolster the rest of their roster. But honestly, Stephen A. Smith's idea about signing Michah Parsons ahead of, let's say, Dak, I don't think it's the worst idea. We all know Stephen A. Smith, not exactly the biggest Cowboys fan. And so he not a huge fan of Dak Prescott. And I'm sort of in line with him. Like at some point when Dak Prescott has had all these chances, I think that you may want to try something else. That's just my thought. Now let me finish with this short clip from the same video. This is from ESPN First Take. And let me play this short clip from Stephen A. Smith, a few more thoughts on the Cowboys. And if you guys want more NFL content, I put out NFL videos a couple of times per day on this channel. So feel free to subscribe. But here is the final excerpt I'll share with you guys.
In 8 years, man. I mean, listen, we talk about the market, and I get the notion that you are what the market, your value is what the market says it is. And I'm not.
Don't deserve it, or
he doesn't deserve it because he doesn't show up in the postseason. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, they just paid Trevor Lawrence $55 million a year.
Well, listen, I mean, that's the same person. I saw Trevor Lawrence overcome a 27-0 deficit and win a playoff game the year before. Now, last year he wasn't great.
Not Trevor Lawrence.
Trevor Lawrence, yes.
Okay, you did. You're right.
Jacksonville, 2 years ago. All right, now last year he didn't do that, but the year before he did that. I'm saying I'm looking at a Dak Prescott. Do you know that Dak Prescott's best playoff performance, one could easily argue, was in a loss to Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay? When they lost, when Aaron Rodgers sat up there and scrambled to his left and threw that dime down the left sideline. I mean, you look at Aaron Rodgers and his greatness, and that overcame Dak Prescott in a playoff game against Green Bay early in the year. I think it was his first playoff game. Outside of that, Dak Prescott has wet the bed on far too many occasions, bro. And I'm saying to you, don't get me wrong, you got to give him his money because of the market. But I'm just saying, I'm just looking at him. If you're a Dallas Cowboy fan, are you excited about retaining Dak Prescott?
Are you excited?
Excited.
Are you excited for Trey Lance or Cooper Rush as your quarterback?
No. But what
because you won't even be relevant if one of those guys are your quarterback.
I'm saying to you that, guess what? I can make an argument. What do I got to lose? I can make that argument because of what we see come January from Dak Prescott.
Where do you have...
Stephen A. Smith makes a great point there, especially when it comes to Cowboys fans. I do live in Dallas, and it feels to me like there's a shift. It's like when you fail so much in the postseason after having regular season success, there's only so much hope and excitement you can muster up after you experience great. This is a great season, great regular season success, losing the playoffs. Great regular season success, losing the playoffs. It happens time and time again. At some point, it's like, okay, what are we getting hopeful for? And I feel like lots of Cowboys fans are at that point because let's say the Cowboys come in, they finish 12-5. I think that many Cowboys fans and many people will be like, are they going to do it again? I think that a lot of Cowboys fans will be a lot more hesitant to fully believe that they have a chance at winning a Super Bowl. Where last season, I think Cowboys fans were still on the with the idea that, okay, we've got a good chance here. We're 12-5. They're going to get it done this year. I just feel like that idea has shifted because we've seen the same thing happen year after year after year. If it happens again and Dak has not gotten a new deal, I bet the Cowboys move on from him. That's part of why I think they haven't given him a new deal up to this point. I think Dak, who knows if he wants that as well. But I think the Cowboys want to let it play out, wait for the season to end, and if the same thing happens, try something new. Go to Trey Lance. Maybe it doesn't work, but I think you have to switch it up if you're the Dallas Cowboys. That's all I have for this one. You want more NFL content, feel free to subscribe down below, and I'll see you guys next time.